topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Florida. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. I see, did we lose Ray Rebel?
Nope.
There he is. Okay.
No, you did not.
Okay. Hey, Ray, I got to tell everybody, you and I have been doing this for a long time. You started off with our show when we did radio in Tampa, and this show became so important that we extended it throughout Florida. And we did something we rarely do, is we do this show twice a month live. And I just got to tell you, I just found out this morning that Ray and I will be doing this show for at least another year. And we are just, Ray, I just got to tell you, we are so blessed to have your firm and all the valuable information you give to everybody every month. And I just want to thank you so much online.
Well, Stephen, thank you. It's been a good partnership over the 3.5 or 4 years that we've been together, and excited that we'll take it to a 5th year. But as I mentioned to you in the email this morning, it's time for the old guy to start to slow down a little bit. But I just enjoy it. I enjoy the show so much. We're going to do it for at least one more year, and then we'll see what happens after that.
We'll see. Okay. Like I said, I'm just glad we've got you. Ray, you know, what I've noticed, and I just told you, we got a lot of questions for today's show. It looks like that people are still very concerned about the new bill, if it's going to be passed or not. But I wanted to ask you something on a personal note, because the way I read the bill is we're not cutting expenses until 2029. Do I have that wrong?
So you have part of it right and part of it not. There are cuts that are going to occur. Many of them start next year, 2026, but they are spread out over the length of the bill and phased in over time. And you know, the bill, Congress says, is that they're doing things permanently. I laugh every time that happens, because as soon as we get a new Congress and a different president, who knows what they'll decide to do, and they're permanent until they're not. And that's everybody's got to understand that piece of how legislation works in Washington, D.C.
Are they going to get this big, beautiful bill, as they call it? Is it going to get passed, Ray?
You know, they not only call it, but they actually named the bill One Big Beautiful Bill Act. I mean, well, first of all, last week they had a little setback in that 4 members of the House Ways and Means Committee voted against moving the bill forward. There must have been some arm twisting and some wrangling that went on over the weekend, because yesterday or late Saturday night, the bill moved out of the Ways and Means Committee, and the same 4 people didn't vote for it, but they said present, which is essentially saying yes without saying yes.
Right.
So that they can remain true to their personal convictions. Now it'll go to the Rules Committee. They will deal with it. I don't think they'll have the same kind of trouble there that they did in the Ways and Means. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, may be able to still get this bill out before the Memorial Day weekend. Although it looks like it's starting to move, there are actually 11 committees that the bill has to go through because it's one big, beautiful bill. And so there are many committees that are involved as a result of it, because this is dealing with not only with taxes, but it's dealing with immigration, it's dealing with the debt ceiling. I mean, there's a whole cadre of things that are in the bill. And even then, I being a betting man, Stephen, will guarantee, and I can very rarely guarantee anything, but I'm going to guarantee that the Senate is not going to rubber stamp the House's bill. They're going to make changes to it. And probably the biggest one is in the conversation around the SALT, which is the acronym that is given for state and local taxes, which has been capped at $10,000 since 2017, the act, so 2018 through this year. And that's been bumped up to 30,000 to give some recognition to it. But the Senate would like to see it much higher than that. So I know just in that one area, there's going to be some discussion between the House and the Senate, and there'll be others as well. The hope is to get it done by July, and the July 4th. So, we had Liberation Day on April 2nd this year. We're going to have Independence Day still on July 4th. We haven't changed that date yet. So we'll have to wait and see whether or not Congress can get it through the Senate, and then compromise is done, and then back through the House and the Senate all over again. The biggest issue is in the House, where the majority is very slim, and the hawks that are there about wanting more cuts. And there are, in this bill, over the next 10 years, about $1.6 trillion of cuts that occur, the largest of which will be coming from Medicaid, not Medicare, Medicaid. And that's going to probably approach $850 billion, which is huge for our healthcare system to absorb. The interesting thing people don't realize.
Go ahead, Ray.
That 70% of all the children born in Florida are paid for by Medicaid, not personal insurance. And so just in the area of birthing children, the loss of revenue that is going to occur is going to put even more pressure on the bottom line of hospitals in our health system.
One other thing, Ray, because we have an older demographics that watch your show. Another big question people have is, what is going on with Social Security and the tax cuts on that? Because from the letters I'm receiving and what I'm learning is it's not going to be a full tax cut for Social Security. I keep hearing the number $4,000.
So there is no tax cut to Social Security or Medicare. That's ironclad. That is not going to happen. There was some conversation about making Social Security payments tax-free. Right. And as we've talked about on the show before, that would be devastating to Social Security, because all the revenue that comes from the taxation of Social Security benefits goes back into the Social Security Trust Fund. It does not go into the general fund. And if Social Security, which is planned to run out of money sometime within the next 8 years, didn't have that money, it would happen even sooner. So that was dead on arrival, and you and I talked about that several times. I said that just simply can't happen. What the bill does do, however, is it allows seniors, and the definition of seniors, interestingly, in the bill was not defined, but we're going to assume that means age 65 and above, that they would have $4,000 that would not be taxed. So it's like they're going to get a little extra itemized deduction for that. I believe it's only available for the next 3 or 4 years, and then that goes away. So that was kind of a compromise to not being able to tax Social Security, is to give an extra deduction to not pay taxes on $4,000 worth of income.
So thank you so much for clearing that up. We've had so many people write about that. So Moody's downgrade, I told you that was what most people have written about the show today. They downgrade to the U.S. debt, and the 30-year bond is now over 6%. What are the implications of this?
Well, first of all, the 30-year bond is over 5%, not over 6%. However, it is possible that it could get there. The big one is if the 10-year Treasury gets to 5, that probably means 30-year bonds will be at 5.5 or 5.6. But if the 10-year gets to 5, then it really begins to compete with the stock market for returns. And it would not surprise us to see, if those long-term interest rates continue to drift upwards, to see the stock market react in a negative way. I don't mean a free fall by any stretch of the imagination, but just less money is going to go to the stock market, and more will end up going to the bond market. A lot of conversation about the downgrade and what does it really mean. Well, here's the interesting phenomena. While clearly we have more debt than is comfortable, at least for me, and I think for a lot of people, so are most of the major countries around the world in a very similar political situation. You can look at Germany, France, look to China, Japan. All of them have more debt than their economy probably can support, and so the phenomena that somehow the U.S. is not going to be the reserve currency anymore probably is not true. But what is probably true, if interest rates stay here, is that it could reinflate worldwide, which is what governments always want. They want inflation. And why would they want inflation? The reason they want inflation is if you have a 30-year bond paying 5% and inflation is at 2%, well, it doesn't deflate the value of the dollar all that much year over year. But if you have 4 or 5%, then you're paying back into the future with cheaper dollars than what you borrowed at. And so that's what excites governments. And that's the thing that concerns me at this point, is that the governments will look to devalue their currency across the board in order to reduce the burden that exists on the debt. So don't expect a free fall, but we do need to keep a careful eye on interest rates. The good news is, at least, that the inflation rate seems to have settled in at about 2.4, 2.5%, still not at the Fed target of 2%. And so the Fed will have to continue to balance between fighting inflation on the one hand and full employment on the other. And right now their emphasis is on inflation, and that's why they haven't lowered interest rates. If jobs start to be lost, and we start to move into a recession, then you could see short-term interest rates start to come back down again. But if that happens, it's probably not until late this year that the Fed will act relative to interest rates and cutting them.
Ray, this is probably the best text we've ever gotten in the last 4 years.
Wow.
This is from Walt. This is from Walt at the Polo Club in Boca. My friends and I sit here twice a month in the bagel room to listen to your show. We have so much respect for your knowledge. Now that you've had time to look at the tariffs, what are your feelings? Do you think they're working? Are they working against us? Wow.
Well, Walt, first of all,
you're a hit at the Polo Club, right?
I'm glad that Walt and his friends at the bagel shop think that it's important enough to enjoy a bagel with us, but that's very nice.
Yes.
So the tariff. First of all, there is no question that we need to have the world treat us in a similar way to how we treat them with their goods. And I'm all in favor of removing barriers wherever we can and to have totally free trade. That would be the ideal state. The president has announced 25% against Canada and Mexico. He's announced 140% against China. He's backed down from all of those, putting things on pause, which gives us hope that somehow deals will be made during this lull, if you will, this ceasefire in the trade wars that exist at the present time. England has already come to the table and made a deal with the United States. I think that the president will work very hard in the remaining days that are left, which are about 40, to figure out deals with Mexico and Canada. And what I think the linchpin of all of these deals are going to be that part of the deal will be that these other countries will impose the same tariff on China that we agree to place on China, and try to bring China into a world where the reason their goods are as inexpensive as they are is so much of their manufacturing industries are subsidized by the government, and therefore it's hard to compete. So I'm going to be hopeful that there'll be some deals made between now and July 4th, when about the time the 90 days will be over. I think that one by one, everybody will see the benefit of treating each other fairly and equitably. And there is a difference between, equitable and fairness. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But I am not in favor of tariffs, Walt. Using them as a weapon right now may benefit us in the end, but tariffs on a long-term basis are a negative for any economy. So let's keep our fingers crossed that somehow the president and his emissaries will be able to figure it out with the other countries.
Okay, Sally in Palm Beach, I saw a TV show on Sunday morning that talked about investing in the stock market, and the investments can never go down. How do they do this?
Sally, I have to tell you, it drives me nuts on those Sunday mornings that I happen to be flipping a channel and run into one of those TV shows. It's very expensive to be on television, which means you need to make a lot of money. And the product that most of them are offering once you go to their office is what's called a fixed indexed annuity, which in and of itself is not a bad product. It does guarantee that your investment will never go down, but there are no guarantees that it is only going to go up unless you're in their guaranteed account. They're very complicated. No way that in the few minutes that we have left this morning that I can unpack all of that for you. But here's the deal. The commission on those kind of products is extremely high, sometimes approaching 10% of whatever you invest. And the surrender period is extremely long, generally greater than 10 years in most cases. And so you just have to be really very careful and fully understand these products before you go out and do it. How are they able to do it? They use options to protect the downside risk. But I will assure you, you do not always get the gain that occurs in the market. And speaking of that, Stephen, I just want to remind everybody that we always offer a 1-hour complimentary consultation in our Tampa or Clearwater office. And if the folks are not in the Tampa Bay area, they can always do it with us by Zoom, as we have clients in over 30 states. And so we venture out to have people give us a call at 727-441-9022. That's 727-441-9022. And just say you want to take advantage of the 1-hour complimentary consultation that you heard about here at Ask the Experts.
Ray, with our last few minutes, would you, and you're always so open and honest and humble, tell people why that they should use Provise as their money management company?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry.
We usually start off, tell people about Provise, but I wanted to end the show with just put it in your own words, because what you do is so important, and the success you've had over the many, many, many years that Provise has been doing this. So the floor is yours for the next couple of minutes.
Well, quickly said, number one, we act at a fiduciary standard of care, which means we always put your interest first. And we've been that way since the late 80s. So that's number one. You know, whatever advice we give is not in our best interest, unlike those that are selling the annuities we talked about earlier on the TV. The second thing is every one of our advisors has a certified financial planner, CFP designation, which means that we have all gone through rigorous education, exam, et cetera, in order to be representing the gold standard of the financial planning industry. And the last thing, and I say this humbly, although it's going to come across not that way, we're fun people to be with. And we do a very good job working with our clients. So just give us a call, try us, see how it works. No pressure, as you will find out as you come to visit with us.
How do people reach you, Ray?
Call us at 727-441-9022, 727-441-9022, or go to Provise, PROVISE.com.
Ray will be back with us in 2 weeks. Thank you, Ray. Love doing the show with you.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.